Welcome to the AVNI Interviews. We're your hosts, Eric Bork and Mikey Taylor.
What up?
We're the co-founders of AVNI, a brand for entrepreneurs and influencers. And here on the AVNI Interviews, we interview people doing the work they want and the lifestyle that they love to help other people do the same thing. Today's episode, we are going to talk about a process, a mental process that is super, for me, one of the most impactful, helpful processes that I've learned from all these really successful people. And me and Mikey have been going through a couple years, both of kind of major life transformations. Like Mikey went from being a pro athlete to being the president of a capital company. And I went from figuring out what I was going to do to doing what I want. So we're going to go through this mental process. But before we get started with that, we are going to be launching a program. And we want to throw it out there for anybody to see who is potentially interested. It's going to be, one thing we've noticed is New Year's resolutions, the beginning of every year, they start and then they go away. So we're going to be launching a program in 2019, at the end of 2018, about setting goals and sticking with them throughout the year. So for anybody who's interested in that program, go to avnidigital.com/goals. And we'll keep you updated on what that program is. And again, the focus is going to be on daily productivity, setting your goals, and sticking with them throughout the year. So again, anyone that's interested in that, go to avnidigital.com/goals. Now, jumping in here, we're going to start talking about this process. Now, Mikey, how you doing today, man?
I'm good.
How's your day been? How's it been? Give the audience what's going on in your life, man.
We have a big project that we're working on in Ohio, a big development deal.
How many units is this one going to be?
Living, it will be almost 400 units.
Yeah, okay.
It's a big deal. We'll talk more about it, but there's so much going on, and
it's exciting, man.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's so exciting to see you doing this, man.
So it's just been a busy day, just getting everything ready for that.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to cue this up. I personally, I tend to worry. So actually, no, let me cue it up differently. Let me cue it up like this. This process, I want anyone listening, picture where you are and picture where you want to go. In between that is a bridge or a process to go through to get you there. Today, we're going to talk about that process and how to basically calibrate and use this process to get to where you want to go. So I will share this though. I love these processes. I've used this one my whole life, and this one I tend to worry. So I was listening to, I think it was Brian Tracy, and he said that you can easily make yourself not worry. And I was like, really? Because I worry all the time. And he said, yeah, the first thing you do is accept the worst possible outcome. Once you accept the worst possible outcome, then go to work doing everything you can to prevent the worst possible outcome from happening. And the crazy thing is, when I would get super worried about something, I would just do that. I would just accept the worst possible outcome. Be like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And most of the time, it's not, I'm going to die. Most of the time, it's like, I could lose $5,000. We'll just accept it. And then the worry goes out of the way, and you can start focusing on what you can actually do. So the process we're going to focus on today.
And kind of another thing.
Yeah.
Isn't like the percentage rate of, like, when you start worrying about something, like let's say you losing $5,000. Right? Isn't the percentage rate of the thing that you're actually worrying about happening like something like 6%,
yeah,
5% or something? It's
that's
like something
the
like
whole point of the process.
Yeah.
Is that most of the time you spend your time worrying about something that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if you accept that thing, then you don't have anything left to worry about it. Sometimes it's hard to accept. There's been times when I've been like, I can't accept that happening. But the trick is what you just said. The chances of it happening are so low that when you accept it and start focusing on the things you can do, you basically get rid of the barrier of you stopping yourself from psyching yourself out. That's the whole point. People can literally work themselves into believing they're having a heart attack, or, you know, thinking that the worst things are going to happen, and that kills your productivity. That's super counterproductive.
Kills your life too.
Yeah. It's not a fun way to live. So that for me, that process took a lot of stress away from me. Once I started doing that, it saved me a lot of stress. So the one today, we're going to talk about 4 steps. So the first step is start by working backwards. Establish. Now this can be used short term. This can be used. We're going to talk today about Mikey doing this for his property. And this can be used short term, something you want to do in the next week or next couple months, or it can be used long term for what you want to do with your life. I'm going to go over how I use this to get to where I am now, but really where I want to go, I'm not there yet, but we'll go over that. So the first part is start by working backwards. Establish exactly what you want. And there's a lot of different ways to picture that and to think about what it is. As I always say, for me, I look at, if it's like a long-term thing of where I want to be in life, I'll picture a day and what that day looks like and what I'm doing in that day. And that's my visualization process. It could be as simple as raise $11 million or, whatever it is, figure out where you want to go. Step 2, take a good look where you're at, acknowledge what you're not good at, your weaknesses, where you're lacking, and also the resources that you do have. Most people know what a SWOT is. In business, you do a strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats evaluation. So do like a personal SWOT. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities? And what are the threats that are going to stop me from getting there? Once you've taken a good look at where you're at, you then have an A point and a B point. Then you can start looking at the third part, which is what are the practical tools that can help you get there? That's where you start getting to action and the things that you can actually do. And then step 4 is, some people call it the 80-20 rule. Some people call it the 5%, 95% rule. But the general principle is that you get 95% of the results from doing 5% of the things. So once you've identified in step 3, the things that will help you practically get there, then pick the 5% and take action on those things, starting with the things that are going to get you the most results. So as an example, let's start off with you, Mikey. I want to get into step 3 because that's where it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Before you even go there, I want to just stop you real quick.
Okay.
There's something you said. I think, I mean, I can pretty safely say this for everyone. We all want to be successful, right? We all want to be rich. We all, maybe not, but we all want to live this certain version of our lives, right? Mm-hmm. I think what happens is most people don't do any of the work or even put the plan in action to go achieve it. They almost just like give up because they just like feel like, oh, it just has to happen or it's not going to, right? But there really is like true steps that you could take to get there. And I think the first one is figuring out what that even means. Like, who do you even want to be? And once you know that, then you actually have like at least a pathway to get there. And so just know, do the work to get there. If it's something that you want, do the work. And this is how you do it. And start with where do you want to go?
Totally. And I think to add to that, I think one of the biggest realizations is that if you set a goal, if you set a big goal, right? There literally are actual resources out there that can help you get to that goal. And I was going to touch on this later, but I'll touch on it right now. For me, and I know I talk about this every episode, is we've launched our academy teaching people how to get clients to pay them and start their own agency. For me, that was out there. I just didn't find it for years. So if I would have set the goal, I needed to free up my money and time to get where I wanted to go. So that tool in the middle was a very practical thing. It was like, do this, do that, get people to pay you. Okay, now you have time, now you have money. Now that's really what enabled me to start AVNI. So, and again, that for some people, that may be it. So if getting clients to pay you is a part of getting to that process, then the academy could definitely help you do that. And that's avnidigital.com. But yes, it's absolutely very, very practical, and the dreams are built by those things in between. So finding those practical steps that you can take to get there, that really is the bridge to get you to where you want. It's just going through this process of identifying what those actual practical things are. And in doing that, you literally can get to where you want to go. It's just picking the right things. And that's step 4. Pick the 5% the most important things that will get you to where you want to go. So let's talk about this process. Let's run through it for you. You know what? Let's talk about your current project right now, because that's exciting.
Okay. Which one?
So we'll go back to like the story of you starting, but let's talk about Ohio. Okay. So I'm going to cue this up so that the audience kind of gets the context of you doing this.
Okay.
So a few months ago, me and Mikey were over at my place talking about AVNI. And then like a day later, he calls me, he's like, and he had already started on a building in Long Beach that he had to raise, what was it?
We raised about a little over 2 million, 2.3, I believe.
Okay. So he's already raised, about $3 million. No, you said 2.3?
I think we needed just over 2, and we raised, I think, a little over 3, somewhere right around 3.
Okay. So I had seen how much work it took to raise that much money. And it was literally crazy. I would Mikey would fall over at the end of the day, and I'm hitting him up for AVNI stuff, and he's raising money and just exhausted. Like, Mikey, what'd you do today? I met with 8 people. And I was literally watching him do this. Was crazy, right? So then, and that was to raise, we're just going to call it 3 just for a round number. Then he comes like a few months ago, says, you know what? I think I'm going to raise 11. And I was like, in my head, I was like, dude, I don't know if he's ready. Like, I don't know if he can do that. Like, I don't think I ever expressed that to you, but I was just like, that is a very uncomfortable, big leap in the progression of commune capital. So that's, to cue it up, that's kind of, these are the types of situations we're talking about. Okay. So let's go through this process when you decided to raise $11 million. Okay. So you started out and we kind of already went over that. So where were you at? Or no, excuse me. Step 1, where did you want to go and what did it look like? So describe what it looked like.
What it looked like meaning before we did it?
The Ohio deal, when where you want to go, where you wanted to go.
Where I wanted to go was, so there's a couple different scenarios in this, but I'm just going to kind of be broad for a second. We basically needed anywhere from 8 to 18 million. I know that's a big gap, but whatever. Right. And in that it's a full development project. So we bought land, basically redeveloping on top of it, almost 400 units of living. There's 2 parcels. It's a community that essentially we want to build, right? And the deal's incredible. Everything about it was incredible, right? Location, deal, returns. It was really exciting. The thing that was scary for me is the amount I needed to raise was larger than I had ever done before. Right. So it was just one of those things. I loved where I saw it going. Yeah. And knew that. And then once I was like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I need to do. I had to break down if I thought it was possible for me to get the money, right? Getting the project done was possible. I just wasn't sure. It was just an uncomfortable amount because I hadn't done it before.
Okay. So where you wanted to go was basically raising the money and developing with your newly formed commune capital company, raising, we're just going to call it 11 because it's 8 to 20, you said. So raising $11 million that's in short where you wanted to go. With mentioning the detail that you just did. So where were you at
where
the time?
I want to go is I want to get this project. I want to build it out and I want to build a community, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be a part of turning this area. That's where I wanted to go.
Yeah. And where were you at the time?
We had just finished the last raise.
Which was how much? We called it 3.
Call it 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it was just one of those things, man. It's like there's a lot of blessings that I've been fortunate to have partnered with people that have been doing this. So
let's talk about that.
So the experience is there, right? The
experience. For people listening, you have a little bit of experience, right? But when you say experience, you mean your team's experience, right? Or no?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
my experience
they might
doesn't
not know.
compare to theirs. It just doesn't.
So explain the experience that your team has.
So really, our team with 30 plus years of experience in real estate,
Okay.
right? They've done development deals, they've managed funds. All of this is normal for them,
Okay.
right? And for me, my experience always came on just the investor side, right? It's a different thing being on this side. You're running a business, right? So my experience just isn't as much as everyone else, which is what was so awesome about doing this with them, right? So I felt it was just one of those things, man. I felt very comfortable about the deal. I felt very comfortable about the position in the deal. The only thing I was uncomfortable about was, can I raise the money?
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. So you were at your kind of SWAT at the time. You were at the point where you had raised money. Mm-hmm. You were newly formed, but it was a big leap for you to get there. Not leap. Yeah, it was you getting out of your comfort zone and growing very fast. Yeah.
I mean, dude, you saw me, man. It's like how I'm meeting with 6-7 people a day to raise $3 million. Like, okay, so do I need to meet with 15 people? I can't, so it just really what got me there. And I'm sorry if I'm skipping steps.
No, this is good.
I was trying to figure out if I felt like I could do it.
Yeah.
Right. With the first raise with Long Beach, I felt very confident that I could do it. Right.
Yep.
So I went in just with a different vibe. I'm getting this done. Right. With this one, before I do anything, I have to feel like I can do it. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm not going to go into something like feeling like, oh crap, I don't know. I have to believe it. Right. And there was a moment where I was trying to figure out if I felt like I could do it. And that was in the beginning when we first started talking.
Well, this is now you're getting in. Let's call it though. You're getting into step 3. So what are the things?
Okay,
that
and sorry, this is
at?
the one thing. This is actually talking about partnerships. This is why it's so nice having a partner like Eric, because Eric systematically or strategically maps out all these steps, and he follows this guideline of like what he does and how he does it. Right? For me, I actually never took the time to even put together why I do the things I do until Eric, right? So I just like kind of tell you and you go, oh yeah, that was 3, that was 2. So that's another thing. It's good to have a partner who takes the time to like, I guess, reverse engineer why you make the decisions.
That's what we'll call it, reverse engineering.
Yeah. So, okay. So did I skip a part?
No, just that was perfect. 3 would be the things that you did, that you looked at that would get you to where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
So what were those things that made you feel like?
So before that, I think there's an element that once you accept something, you start figuring out how to do it. Mm-hmm. Right. I think all of us, right? Somebody used this analogy. I can't remember who, they were saying, hey, do you think you could go make $1 million, in the next 2 months? And most people's answer would be like, no way. Right. Mm-hmm. But if you say, hey, look, your brother is going to die unless you go get us $1 million in the next 2 months. Mm-hmm. You're going to figure a way to get that $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. You'll do whatever it takes to get that $1 million. Once you accept, okay, I have to do this, your brain starts figuring out the tool, kind of the, benchmarks or things that you actually have to do to get it.
Exactly.
Right? So for me, I just needed okay, I'm going to do it. Right.
Yep.
And really it was a conversation I was having with my wife. Right. I was sitting there and I spent 3 days thinking about this, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe even longer. Maybe it was a week. And finally Jen's like, I've never seen you this torn about anything. Like you're so quick at making decisions. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I can't, I've never done it. Like, I'm not sure how it's going to be. And she was the one that was like, look, every time you put yourself in a situation, you do it. Mm-hmm. Always. You always have. Put yourself in the situation, you're going to do it. Believe me, you're going to do it. Right. And so I woke up the next day and I'm like, talk to my partners, and it's not a sole decision on me. I have 3 partners. This isn't, I'm doing it, let's go. This was a group decision, but both of them wanted to do it. It was me who was like, can I do it? Can I do it? Right. And then once she said that, I was like, called them the next day. I was like, hey guys, really, let's figure this out. Right. And once I got to that point, then it just became, okay, how do I raise $11 million or how do I raise $13 million? And that's what I've been working on for the last 6 weeks. 5 weeks.
Okay, perfect. So, and you know what? That is a part, that's almost something like, it's almost another technique that me and Mikey talk about this all the time, about sometimes you have to put yourself in that situation. Like you just described, sometimes you have to put yourself in a situation where you have to perform within a certain time frame. And putting yourself in that situation a lot of times is what you have to do.
Yeah, I know where you're going. I just have to say this because this is a big one, right? You all, like, if you're gonna put yourself in a situation like that, you have to take a look at the risks that you're taking along with that. And there has to be a point of you going, is this worth me failing? What am I going to lose?
You right? Absolutely have
I do that with everything I do. The good thing about this Ohio deal is we're in such a good spot for a lot of different outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't like, okay, if I do this, I'm putting it didn't have the risk of, you just assess the risk.
I know what you're saying because I asked that question. So basically there's certain things that if you were to not raise the money, which you will, there's certain things that basically you wouldn't lose there's other ways to raise the money. Like you could bring partners on, stuff like that, just to kind of summarize for the audience listening. So they know kind of like, it's not like you're going to lose your house and family or something like that. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Just to confirm. Okay. So let's get into that process. What were the things that made you comfortable? What it was your partners you just described, right? What other things?
The things that made me comfortable is my partners, the partners on who we're actually doing the development side with. And there's a lot of different things that went in. We got the property for like an incredible price. And so in doing that, it gave us options on if we didn't raise the money, if we didn't raise all the money, there were ways for us to still make money if the deal didn't go accordingly, which I liked. And really I wanted to, I think the ultimate thing was what happens if I don't raise all the money.
Yeah.
Right. And there was still a good scenario outcome if that happened.
Okay. And then the 5%. So the most important actions when you first started doing it, I'm assuming for you, the most important actions when you got started was meeting and networking and raising the money. I mean, that's pretty much a straightforward, right? For this scenario.
How far back are we going? Like from idea phase or Ohio phase?
When you started when you started taking action for Ohio.
Yeah. A lot of it became networking.
Okay. So that's, you basically went out and said, okay, now I'm going to start networking. That's the main action that you took, right?
Yeah. Networking and kind of outlining how I get in front of new people that would be a good fit in what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that process. Let's go through another couple of examples. I'm going to give a quick example real quick for myself. I was a sales rep and a server. I hated what I was doing. I was working with a good friend, but I just couldn't stand the work. So I first started by figuring out where I wanted to go. And for me, it's almost like you kind of have to like fall in love with where you want to go. Like it has to be like exciting. You have to be like, and for me, I used to work at a backpack company, and here's the story of why I don't want to own a product company. I remember we did pro model bags, and I'm not going to say who it is because that might be negative, but we had this signature bag, and Journeys bought them, and they sent back, I don't know, they didn't sell fast enough. Like the brand wasn't there yet for the bag. It was OGO backpacks. And I remember they sent back, it had to have been like, I think it was like $750,000 worth of bags. And I remember the truck pulled up, unloaded them, and I went in the warehouse and I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, like what if this was like my money? And they just sent, like the company had paid, and I wasn't an owner in that company, I was an employee. They just paid all this money to have these things produced. They shipped them out, they paid for it, they shipped them back, and they're sitting there. And I just remember thinking a product company is not something I'm in love with. There's just having inventory and then having to like send out the inventory. And then sometimes people just wouldn't pay you. Like fries, they're terrible. They don't pay you. Like, so that I was not in love with it. What I was in love with was the idea of digital products that I don't have to keep in a warehouse. And on top of that, for me, digital products literally kind of like saved me because I didn't know how to do anything. And then my favorite podcast has always been Mixergy with Andrew Warner. And I started buying his products and I would buy them and I would go to it. And then I learned literally what changed my life. So I was in love with this idea of like monthly income. And so for me, that like figuring out where I wanted to go, I realized, you know what? I want to make $250,000 a month with these digital products. I'm in love with this idea. So that for me, that was the start of the process. And this is kind of my like life one, I guess. And then second, I took a look where I was at and I realized I was a server and I was a sales rep. So I was working 2 jobs and I actually loved being a server. It's funny. I loved it. Like I almost didn't want to quit because I had so much fun doing it. But it wasn't good money. And so basically when I looked at where I was at, I realized I need it from A to B. I need that bridge. I need to bridge that gap with something that will free up money and time for me. And for me, when I realized it was getting clients to pay me and having my own agency, that was it basically changed everything for me. And then I realized that the 5% of actions for me was getting clients. So I went out and I said, in order to have money and time, I need to get clients. So anybody listening, if you haven't done this, write down, where do you want to go? The where you're at, you don't need to focus on that so much. That's not like the key here, but you do need to identify and be real. I think it's important because some people don't acknowledge like reality. And I talk about being delusional a lot. I don't like it, but and I'd never call people out, but like there's a few people that just drive me nuts because they're just delusional. But you do need to take a good realistic look at where you're at. And then from there, what are the things that are going to get you there? And for me, again, it was time and money. I needed to free up my time. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm going to forget this. So I want to say it because I think this is really important. And remember, like a lot of people don't realize the things they're telling themselves that hold them back, right? For example, don't ever say, I can't do that, right? Look at what you want to do and figure out a way to do it. Right. And I think like whether it's like your parents or how you were raised, a lot of us were raised with this like very self-limiting belief. You have to get out of that or you'll never change. Yep. Right. Like, so I was talking to somebody about it the other day and someone had mentioned a house, right? He wanted to buy this house and he was like, I can't do it. I don't have the money. And the person said to him, dude, why don't you start looking at how you could do it? Could you do it with a partner? Could you do it? And I remember him saying to me, he's like, dude, that was so foreign to me. I have never looked at anything that way. Yeah. So for anyone out here listening, if you just are constantly saying, I can't do that, I can't do it, stop. Yeah. Stop right away and start looking at how could you do it? Even if it sounds crazy, just do it and it'll change your life. Totally
for sure. And a great example of that is one of our Academy members. He's the one he posted this week.
Oh, he's a legend.
Yeah, he's already put his notice in, quitting his job, like signed up for the Academy like a few weeks ago. And one of the things when I first was talking with him, he was like telling me about his hourly rate for making videos. He's better than me at videos. He's like, I'm not that great at making videos. I can make explainer videos. I can make okay videos. I upload videos to YouTube, but he's better than me. And he's talking about his hourly rate and charging people like $300 for a video. And the first thing I told him is like, do you realize your work, you could easily charge $2,000 for one of these videos and do this video in 8 hours? And that's what we teach in the Academy. And he's like, just had never thought of it, right? And he's like, yeah. And right then he's like, I can. And now, you know, like he hit me up this week.
He's going to be successful.
He hit, I don't know if I told you this. He hit me up this week and he goes, I quit In-N-Out and I was making like, I think $500 a week. He's like, this week I'm going to make $1,800.
Yeah, no, you can tell. He's
I
gonna
was
be,
just
yeah,
like,
he's going to be successful.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, and that's such a proud moment. Like when I look at like one of our academy members and they're telling me this, it's like that. I texted Mikey and we were like, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, looking at basically in between, there is a way to how do you say it? There is a way to do what you want to do. It's like so cheesy to say anything's possible, but
you know what? I'm going to use this example, right? So I haven't been like doing anything like exercise wise, right? I get to skate like once a week, maybe if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
And then I don't do anything else, right? So I'm like, I feel like shit, straight up, right?
I know the feeling.
Finally, I was like, I'm done with this, right? I'm so done with this. It's been 3 days. I've woke up in the morning. I've run all 3 mornings. Like I'm keto right now, right?
Oh no.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
So anyway, but anyway, it's been 3 days, right? I already feel so much better than I did. Nothing's changed in 3 days. It's been 3 days of running, right? But just doing the steps of getting towards your goal, you'll feel like a whole different person. And I already dude, I feel great now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think to your point, like once you recognize where you want to go and you start doing steps together, even if they're tiny, it feels so much better because you know you're getting one step closer to where you want to go instead of being stagnant at where you're at.
Yeah. And that the key part of this process is make an actual list. Once you have your A point and your B point, make a list of the things that, and this is step 3, that will help you get to that B point where you want to go. Make a list and write it out. And then at the same time, write it down. What am I currently doing? And I just went through this whole process with one of our launches. What am I currently doing? And then compare the things that will get you there compared to what you actually are doing. And for me, it was a slap in the face. And I realized, okay. And most of the time when you do that, you're going to realize I am not doing these things that I need to be doing. And then those are the things that you can put into action in step 4, pick the most important ones or the ones that are going to get the most results and then focus on those. But it's just a matter of writing down what things should I do and what things am I doing? And then when you look at them, you can go, oh, okay, now I have an understanding of A, what I need to do to get there, and B, what I'm actually doing. So that's the process right there. So let's really quickly run through, I want to run through when you started Commune. Mm-hmm. So where did you, and that one we
like talked, once it was an idea. It was an idea.
Yeah. It was like you were struggling being a pro skateboarder and
I was struggling not being a pro skateboarder.
I mean, not being a pro skateboarder, right?
Yeah.
And how did you set that where you were going point?
I started with the idea, mm-hmm. right? When I had the idea of it, it was just, okay, I want to create an opportunity, mm-hmm. right? For these certain people. But I didn't have the whole thing mapped out like we do now.
What part of it did you fall most in love with when you were deciding where you wanted to go? What's the most enticing thing for you?
There were 2 parts of it. One, I had a pain point of what our industry does to people. The skate industry.
Well, yeah, and some people might not be skateboarders, so explain that.
Okay, so the skate industry, it's like other industries, other sports industries, except way less money, mm-hmm. right? So the skate industry takes these kids, blows them up, gives them fame, gives them a little bit of money, and then all of a sudden they're gone, right? With no type of guidance. It's this weird, like, we're all family and you're part of this company, so you're a family and nothing's ever going to happen, masked by that's totally false and this is a business. And so when they let them go, it's like a lot of these kids don't have the tools to even know what to do afterward, right?
Yeah.
So there's a part of it, and the pain point I felt that a lot of my friends feel is like, dude, I just sacrificed my entire life dedicated to being this. I did all this in the industry. I did all, and now I'm just gone, and that's it.
Yep.
You know, there's a part that's like painful in a sense, right? And so I wanted to try to do something that would help these guys or fix it, because I spent 15 years being terrified of it. I was terrified of what happened after, right? So that's what one of the, I think, like the things that drew me.
I think to even tie that to your character or personality is you're a big, like, we're a part of a team and we're all doing something together that's great. So that probably really like connected and clicked with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the second thing?
So is that, and then the other thing that really drew me is that I couldn't see where the ceiling was. And that was a big one for me because I had never experienced what that felt like until skateboarding.
Yep.
Right. And like before I would have been like, dude, hell yeah. Like I could get to the top. Like I could hit the ceiling. That's going to be the best feeling ever. It's awful. It's honestly, I think, one of the worst feelings you can experience.
Yep.
And so I didn't want to do anything else where I felt like I could hit the ceiling. I wanted to do something where like I have no clue how far I could take this, and so I just felt like the journey would never end. Right?
Yep.
There was a part of skateboarding that I didn't like. There was a part of pro skateboarding that I didn't like, that there was a time frame on how I could do this. Right? Mm-hmm. So I could get better and better and better and build, and then that's it. Right. I want to do something where like I could just do it forever.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was another part of that. And I do say this because I do have people that, like I'm talking specifically as a pro skateboarder, right?
Yeah.
If you're not a pro skateboarder, you're just a skater. Not saying there's anything negative to it, but there's a different element that comes into being a pro because now it's your business and career. So that's a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. As far as like actual skateboarding goes, like I love skating. I'll skate for the rest of my life.
I'm glad you brought that up because we've talked about this in a few episodes and I want to talk about it right now. The best example I've ever heard, I can't remember the football movie it was. I think it was Any Given Sunday. It may not be though, but football players talk about their love for football and how at some point in their football career, almost all of them grow to hate football.
Yeah, totally.
Because it becomes not what you started doing. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to think about that with skating, but then you think about like, okay, I have this trick. I have a photographer coming. I have a filmer coming. I've been practicing for like a month to do this trick. And then you go out and you sit there for 6 hours and destroy your body and then don't get the trick and go home. That's like, even that though is still like,
you want to know what it was for me?
Well, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I know this is a tangent talking about skating, ahead. Right? I'm the personality where I have to feel like I'm either getting better or doing better or climbing. I have to experience that, right? Yeah. And with skating, I hit a point where that ended, right? And there was a part of being a pro skater which helped because I was able to just focus on being the best. So for 20 years, I felt like I was improving for 20 years, right? Once you stop being a professional, you can't be as good, right? It's impossible. It's like you have to work. You have all these other responsibilities. You can't just go skate 6 hours a day anymore, right?
For sure.
And I'll just be completely transparent with everyone listening. When that happened, there's been a part of skating that isn't as fun for me.
For sure.
Right. And I'm hoping that ends up going away. I'm hoping that's just a new thing for me. But that's difficult, dude. That's hard. And I don't want to experience that anymore.
Gosh,
I want to do like dude, in real estate, right? Like, dude, I could build this company till I'm 70 years old.
Yeah.
I could get better at this for the rest of my life. I like that. I don't want to do something for another 15 years and then it end and I suck at it.
Gosh, man, like I related to that, and I don't want to go. I hope this isn't like bad for the audience, but I relate to that so much. And just so you know, for me, I was, and I haven't thought about this for a long time. There were like a few years where I couldn't even like look at a skateboard because for me, I quit. I was a pro and I quit. And it was for me, looking back, one of the decisions that I don't regret it anymore, but I regretted it for a long time. And I remember being so like, when I finally got to the point where I realized what I had done, I was so mad that I couldn't even look at a skateboard because it just like brought up these like terrible feelings. Now I can go skate because I've like kind of processed it, but Yeah, man, I really, really relate to that.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll go off that. We'll go back on track here.
Okay, so those were the parts that you were kind of like in love with. You were in love. Oh yeah, there's one other thing I want to say. For anybody that hasn't ever experienced that to me, that is what I want to give the Academy members for our Academy. And that's not our only product. We're going to have many more to come. But I will say this. The biggest aha moment for me, and this is in the sales video for the Academy, explaining what it is when the day I gave myself a $5,000 raise. I remember just thinking like, I can't believe that was possible, because I'd always had corporate jobs. So that feeling you're talking about of like having no ceiling, that's the biggest change for me in life, is just being like, I can go out and increase my income at any rate I want based on my actions.
It's a great feeling.
That is something I would encourage everybody to try to get to, because it's the best feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. So you fell in love with kind of that. And I think it is important. Like a lot of people say, oh, passion can't be Go ahead.
There's another thing I actually just thought of. I've always been attracted to things that are kind of difficult, and there's a hard like barrier to entry, right?
Yeah.
Skateboarding.
Mm-hmm.
When we started, no one skated because it was so damn hard to get good at.
Yeah.
Right. There was a part of that I liked. I liked the challenge of it. And I think with what I'm doing in real estate, there's a part of that I feel like is difficult and challenging, and not everyone can just step into doing it, that I think attracted to me to it also. And
I think also, I can't remember if you just said this, but I think one of the things I remember you saying is that you were like, this is like building financial freedom. Like this is building financial freedom in one of the best ways possible you did say for the rest of your life, but it's basically setting it up so you could do it forever, and the financial return is there.
Yeah. So those are the things that grabbed me.
Okay, cool. And then where were you at the moment? And dude, you're at a pretty dark place when you figured this out, right?
Lowest of my life.
If you took an inventory, where were you at?
I was at, well, I shouldn't say the bottom. Like I wasn't. I was in definitely like a trial of my life.
Yeah.
It was the most uncomfortable I've ever been, by far.
And I want to use this part to basically just emphasize hope and not giving up for anybody that is in a spot where they're struggling. It's so easy I remember being at times when I couldn't see a way out. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation. It sucks so bad. But one of the things that I'll say is that it always does change, even though sometimes it feels like it's not going to change. And even though sometimes it feels like as much as you do, it's not enough, it always does change. And that's one thing I've realized going through really hard times, is that it always does get better. Even when you can't see a way out, there is a way out. Yeah. And this process is just part of helping anybody who's in that situation be able to see a way out of it. Yeah. Okay. So you were in a tough spot. You were basically, everything was
confidence low.
Yeah.
And it's funny, man. Like when you look at like a finance or like connection standpoint, highest of my life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As far as me, my whether it's confidence, will, all of it, lowest of my life. Yeah. It was a weird thing. And it's funny because I know a lot of people go, yeah, but like it should be easy for you. You have 500,000 followers. You know all these people. You're like semi-famous. Like this shouldn't be a challenge, right? The thing is, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
It doesn't.
I was more comfortable being broke at 18 trying to be a pro skateboarder than I was at 35 trying to start a real estate company. Way more comfortable here, right? It's to me, it's all about where you're at with yourself, and where I was at was low. It was really low. And I was in a position where like, dude, people knew who I was. Yeah. Like there is a part of like, well, yeah, if you fail, no one really knows. Like shit, everyone's gonna know for me, right? It was like there's a part of like having thing. Oh yeah, my life is public, right? And there's an element to that is scary as well, right? Which could really bring you down when you're feeling scared or unconfident, whatever you want to call it, right? So, that time was the hardest time for me.
And I guess kind of what I meant by it's very public is like we all see athletes. Like we all see like, you know, basketball players. We all see skateboarders, and you watch the process of people downward spiraling after athletic careers, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And you add this to it, right? No, I'm not to have a pity party. On top of all of this, right? I'm losing followers too. Right? So it was like, there was a part where it's like, I know it doesn't matter. I know the followers don't matter. I know that. But, you know, you do judge what you're doing off of the response from your audience or your consumer, right? You build out a product, it doesn't sell. There's something going wrong, right?
Yeah.
You put out content, people don't respond, or you lose followers. Did I do something wrong, right? So during all of this, I'm watching followers go down, and I'm going, oh my gosh, there's no chance. Like, what the hell do I do?
There's something about that feeling, and this is totally a tangent, but there's something about the feeling of like posting like something that's very valuable to you. Like me posting me and Olivia doing something, and then 30 people unfollowing me and being like, well, fuck you guys.
Yeah, I know. And
there's
now
something
it's like,
about it that just like, it just stings. And as much as like you don't care, you know, you do care. Like there is something about it that gets you. So it's like, here you are and you're posting and like losing followers. Now you're gaining again.
Finally. Yeah. Thank God. Yeah,
but as much as like Gary Vee can say nobody cares, and I agree with that. You shouldn't.
Well, he's
care.
right. He's right in the fact that you shouldn't.
But it's hard not to.
Oh my gosh, it's really hard not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so from there, what were in starting Commune? What did you look at? I know that you found podcasts.
So you know what was really adding to the uncomfortableness is I didn't know what to do.
That's what I'm talking. That's the whole point of this episode, right?
Okay.
So yes,
that was
perfect.
That was the hardest part for me. It just felt crappy because I didn't know what I should even spend my time on doing, right? And so I was throwing all these ideas around like we talked about, and nothing felt me.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like authentic at all, right?
Yep.
Until I figured out or came up with this idea. And from that point, everything changed. Everything.
Yep.
Because then I knew, oh, yes, this is what I'm going to do.
Yep.
And now I just have all this time to make it happen. And for me, it's not, the making it happen part isn't as hard. For me, it was hard to just go, what am I going to do?
Yep.
You know?
And I don't want to forget this point. And this is back to the first step, which is people, there's a debate about passion, and there's actually, you know, studies showing that you really shouldn't focus on what you're passionate. And I think that's not true. I think that you should have a certain level of passion for what you do.
I think you need to be like borderline obsessed with it.
And obsessed, yes. And this is what I think. I think it needs to resonate with who you are as a person. I think that what you choose to do, and it's very much like, it's funny because I just came up with this analogy. I didn't have this in the notes here, even though we have this outlined, but it really kind of is like falling in love. It's like you can go out with like the best person in the world and just like have no chemistry with them and just be like, what is it? I don't know, but it's just not there. And then like me and Olivia, I don't know why, but we're best buddies, friends. We have so much fun together. We have chemistry. It's like, I didn't, and I'm going to bring this back to career, but all the girls that I dated that I thought I had something with, it's nothing like the like friendship and fun and connection with Olivia. And it's the same thing with career. It really is. You need to find something that infatuates you, but does more than that you have this passion for, that you're obsessed with, that you think about all the time. If you don't have that,
you're just, it's a lot harder to succeed.
You're going to have to force yourself. And then you're already so much further behind because you're having to force yourself to do something where you need to be doing more, that you need to be going further and beyond what you would normally think about. So if you're having to force yourself to even think about it at all, it puts anyone in a bad situation when you're in that situation.
I
So
agree.
I do think passion is important. I think
too.
it's important to have passion in what you choose to do and where you want to go. And that's why it's titled, Where Do You Want to Go? Okay. So as far as just recap real quick. So figure out what you're working towards. With commune, you fell in love with those two ideas. You took a look with where you were at, and then the tools that you were using to get back on track, the tools that you were using, podcasts, people.
Yeah.
People were a big one.
People's the big one. Yeah. I was trying to reach out and talk to as many people as I possibly could who had a lot of experience in doing what I was trying to do.
Okay. And then also one that I always bring up is modeling. Like find people who are doing it. I think Grant was a good one that you kind of modeled after. So he was building a brand around multifamily. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was just a good one because there was a point where I thought, okay, I'm going to do this and this is going to be awesome, but like I'm going to say goodbye to my following. Like I'm going to say goodbye to my Instagram.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't realize that like I could incorporate that with this. Right.
Yep.
So when I saw him, that was like holy shit, you can do both.
It's
right?
so funny. That's such a funny point. And this is a good one to like think of or remember and laugh at. When you first started thinking about it, you were talking to Fia, and the first thing you said, one of Mikey's partners, and the first thing you said was, "Oh yeah, I have a following," and everybody looked at you like you were stupid. Remember that?
They were so confused.
And isn't it funny that that's literally exactly that your first thought is exactly what you're doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways,
but it's funny. It wasn't even Fia. It was all Jerry, Randy, Brent.
Why would you want to do that?
Wait, you have so what? You have a following. How can you incorporate social media in this?
Yeah.
And I was like. And I was even telling you, like, crap, man, I might be like, what do I do? Just let this thing die? You know? Yeah. And Grant was the one that basically I saw and went, oh,
yeah,
you can do both.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the step 4, pick the most important part. It's probably the same as the other example we gave. You basically started raising money and networking, or is it? What was the most important things when you started going towards what you wanted to do with commune?
Oh man, I don't know if there's 5. There might be. Oh, I guess the most important
just 5%. Like, what were the things?
Capital.
Okay.
Raising money, finding good deals.
And another thing too, in your case, and I say this with caution because over planning is not good, but you did a lot of planning.
Yeah.
You did a lot of planning on what's the brand going to look like.
You know what? The number one thing for us, and I believe for the real estate industry as a whole, is relationships.
Yeah,
by
for
far.
Sure.
I actually, now that I think of it, I spend most of my time building relationships with people.
Yep. And that's been a huge part of you doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's kind of recap here. So just to kind of break down the process, number 1, establish where you want to go. Number 2, take a good look where you're at right now. Don't get stuck in it. And number 3, identify the practical tools. And this is where be resourceful. Write down who's doing this. Who can I model after? Are there any programs out there? Programs are huge. Paying for programs. I'm a huge advocate of paying for programs because of how it's changed my life.
That's actually a good point too. There's so many programs out now. There's so much accessibility to all of these tools that will help you. So you no longer have the excuse of, I don't know how to do it. It's out there. It's
out there. And one thing I've noticed, and I've noticed this with our academy, is that there's a few other people doing social media marketing agency academies. But what I've noticed is that you want to find an academy or a program where you click with the person.
100%.
And that's what I've noticed. There's this girl doing it and she has like 1,000 girls that do it with her. And it's like, they have like a tribe, they have like their crew that they do this together. So find someone that you want to emulate, that you look up to, that you want to be a part of.
Yeah. So if you like Eric and I, this is
and you know what? I should touch on that though. The academy, literally for me, it was the bridge. I wrote down what I spent months creating this academy, which for me was the bridge between being a sales rep server and then being an independent business owner that was cutting it and had money and spare time. That feeling, I remember going, I can do what I want. I have time. Now I work so much with AVNI and the agency that it feels like I don't have as much time. But at the end of the day, if I sit back and reflect, I do have freedom and time to do what I want. So the academy is one of the best ways. And this is kind of a debate for another time, but I don't think there's that many good ways to make money. I personally don't think that there are. I think, like, when people say you can make money doing anything, I agree with that. But what I think is that there's a structure to the way that the market in the world is currently working on.
This is a good time for social media.
It's a great time.
Phenomenal time.
And to contrast it, when we were kids, there was BMX and surf and skate. And it was like everybody was starting a clothing company, but really though, if you wanted to be an athlete, there was really only a couple of ways, not an athlete. If you wanted to make money, there was only a couple of good ways. One, be an athlete and get a shoe sponsor. In the action sports, we'll call it, I hate that word, but that's one way. Starting a product brand back then was another way. There was one point where there were 1,000 new product brands being started a day, pretty much. So nowadays, social media, there are only a few really good ways, in my opinion, to make money. Now, they might look like other things, but starting your own agency, there's a need for it right now in the market. There's small businesses.
There's a huge need that is not going
that
away
are just
for
like,
a long time.
Who's going to do this? I need someone to do it. They have budgets. They want to pay it. So if for me, freedom and not having a ceiling was the best feeling in the world. So for me, that really was the bridge from where I was working as a, sales rep and server to where I wanted to be, which was independent business owner doing my own thing without a ceiling. And that's the TechWorks Academy, avnidigital.com if you want to check it out. Okay. So I'm stoked on this topic. For me, this is a very helpful thing I do in short terms when I need to do something in the next month. Or also, I essentially went through this process. I go through this process often in my journal about life. Where am I going and what does it look like?
Yeah, and I think too, like something that I started doing more recently, but I write down like the perfect version of myself.
Interesting.
And I do it every morning, right? And it's like the person who I absolutely want to be and feel is like perfect and functioning, absolutely everything perfect.
So you write down who you aspire to be and who you...
Yeah, you know what it was? It was Ed Milet, right? I listened to Ed Milet on Drama's podcast, and Drama asked him, like, so who are you aspiring to be, right? And he was like, I have this idea. I have this idea that when you die, right, you see the person that is perfect, the person that you could have been, right? And he goes, and I want to look as close to that person as possible. I don't want to die and look at him and not recognize him, right? Yeah. And I just like listened to that. I was like, dude, that is awesome. And so now every morning I write down who that person is. And just so it reminds me of who I want to be. Yeah. And I do it every morning. And I think that is a really good tool to add to that.
Yeah. And also it's funny, man, just this, we'll wrap it up in a sec here, but isn't it funny to think like the past 2 years, like I've gone through a crazy life change. You've gone through a crazy life change. It like kind of yesterday or today, I was reflecting on like how much like we've done on like mental discipline over the past couple years. Oh yeah. I guess I was on
everything was working for me for 15 years. Yeah. I didn't have to like sit back and like figure out why shit was going wrong. I was just like, I'm winning, bro.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, so for anybody interested in our anti-New Year's resolution program, we're going to put together a program for 2019. If you're interested in being a part of that, this isn't going to be a super expensive one. This is going to be one that pretty much anyone can afford. Let us know if you're interested, and also
DM us too if you're interested.
Yeah. Essentially what we want to create is a group of people who are dedicated to sticking with their goals throughout 2019. That's the objective of this.
Yep.
We don't have the name of the program yet, but go to avnidigital.com/goals. avnidigital.com/goals. And if you go there and put your email in, we'll let you know and notify you once it does launch. So if you're interested in that, hit us up. Let us know if there's anything specifically you would want that to include. DM us, tell us. So that's a wrap. And we look forward always and appreciate your guys' DMs and comments and enjoy the interaction. So we'll wrap it there. Thanks, Mikey. And that's a wrap.